Wonderful. I've done the sort of quick introductions. Izzy, maybe I sort of hand over to you to talk about the interview, and then we can sort of get started.
Brilliant. Sounds good. Thank you. So I guess just to quickly introduce myself, I'm Izzy. I lead our sustainable food systems work at Eunomia. So we're working closely with Rich on this project. We are conducting a couple of interviews as part of the process with ethical dairy experts and practitioners. We're really pleased to be able to speak to you about your kind of understanding of and experiences with the slaughter-free model and gather your views on the potential for scaling it up. Um, your contributions to this interview, I will take notes as I go along, if that's okay. So I might be looking on another screen as I do so. And we'll be using them in our reporting in line with your agreement, and what you've agreed with Rich. So during the interview, it'd be great to speak with you about the farm, the background, the way that it operates, the model itself, um, your views on slaughter-free dairy more broadly and how it compares to other ethical dairy practices, and the potential scalability of it, including potential impacts you see of it scaling up.
Mhm.
I've got a couple of questions noted down here, but if you would prefer to speak a bit more generally, or if there are particular areas of interest you think that we should know about, then please do butt in as I go along. I expect the interview to take 45 minutes to an hour, roughly. Um, Thank you for returning the consent form. I guess my first question is if you have any questions before we start.
I just wanted to see this eunomia. You do only research, that's your main thing?
We are research and consulting. We do a lot of, yeah, so this is our website. Yeah, we do research projects for the public sector, mostly. So I sit in our policy team. So we do a lot of research projects for governments in the UK and Europe and internationally. We do have teams that also work outside of the public sector. So with private sector, NGOs, and we're split across three different themes: circular economy, natural economy, and carbon economy. And yeah, we've got an office in the States, a couple in Europe, and I sit within our natural economy team with our kind of agriculture, land use, food systems hat on.
All right, thank you very much.
Of
Okay.
course. Great. So I guess it would be great to just start off if you could introduce yourself and share the backstory of the farm.
Mhm. So I'll be very quick because we have only 45 minutes, 1 hour, whatever. But
Sure.
so since I started trying to farm about 17, 18, 20 years back, I started understanding that in the US, my experience is only in the US, so I apologize about if I generalize for UK, so you could correct me if I'm wrong. But so I when I say in the dairy, I mean in the US. I don't mean in the UK too. So it could be true, it may not be. So in the US, when I started looking at it, I realized the dairy industry is quite cruel, and so I didn't want to do that. So I went to try to go. I went to India, stayed there with me and my wife, Ashley. We stayed there, and I grew up in Rajasthan. So I didn't grow up working with cows or anything. I was in the city, but I just knew that in the desert, there are nomads there, and all they do is cow rearing for dairy. So I was quite piqued by that, and I looked it up a little bit, and then I found that these people they live only with the cows in the desert, and so we went there to see how they do it. So I got a couple of farms one way or the other. And I started living with them. Ashley and we started living with them, and I learned a lot. It was I learned a lot of the ethos, in not just the skills, but the way they're treating the cows, and that's what I wanted to learn mainly. How they love the cows so much. And also, I started on trying to understand how to make the cow dairy industry, like for me, my own dairy, how can it be um, cruelty free and still be profitable? Which um, I didn't want to jump into it. I kind of start to think in the future. So I looked up the whole Excel sheet, and it was never working out. And
Mm.
but I wasn't thinking it is the same situation all over the world. But when I looked at, so I thought I was thinking, oh, in India, they have already figured out for years. So, but when I was there, then I realized it is not true. Even in India, they don't know how to do it. And there are many, many reasons for it. And that I didn't know earlier. Gradually, I started understanding. And then when I understood the problem, then the solutions, how to go about doing it, started testing them in India first. And then I realized, no, all so much research is required, and so much of funds and publicity, and so much is resources required. I cannot do it in India. I have to do it in US, and best in New York. That's where I was staying earlier. So we got a farm in about 2 hours from New York City, and we started testing. I got cows right away in 2016. Um, Not brown Swiss, we call them in the US, but they are something else they are called in Switzerland. Barwa, some other name they have. But in the US, they call them brown Swiss. And got some Dutch belted cows. I mean, there may be different names in Europe, yeah, but they are from, they're called Dutch belted. And we got some Guernseys too. My wife,
Mm.
my wife's like grandparents and all are from Ireland and Scotland. So, so we are like, so from got some Guernseys. We didn't want jerseys because jerseys have so many issues, especially in the US, because of they are getting into so much of factory farms. So kind of the lineage, the cows that we get now are very diseased oriented, prone to.
Mm.
So, so we got Guernseys. They were 90% of them A2, the protein. So we started testing them, trying to learn the cow because they're so different from what I learned in India 2, 3 years. So huge, first of all, and it's like a whole winter weather, and so slowly I started understanding more and more the economics, and so gradually develop the plan around it, like long term, because knowing that maybe half of the progeny will be oxen, male calves, and what do we do about them, and the older cows, what do we do, and how to keep them healthy, because they normally they live for around 20, 25 years of age, and here
Yeah.
I was surprised to know that even the organic dairies, their average age is 4, 5 years. I don't know how it is in the UK, but that's how the dairy system is here. And so trying to, like, when I first went to Cornell is our land grant university here. I don't know how it is in UK, but every state has a land grant university designated for agriculture, research and extension services and propagation. Every state by state is different university. So in New York, we have Cornell University. So I went to the local extension office, Cornell Extension, and I told them I want to do ethical dairy there. What do you mean by ethical? I said, no killing of male cows and no killing of older cows. It was like, Israel literally laughing about it. And because I mean, it's nothing, because they have been, New York is one of the top three dairy states had been when I went and talked to them, and slowly it is going down. But because they have been dealing with dairies closing down,
Mm,
and they have been killing and trying to keep them afloat. So it was like, oh, they are not successful. How can you make it financially stable? But of course, I was determined, trying to figure out a way, because I said this is no way for the world. It can live like that. There has to be a way around it. So, and because I'd worked on a plan in India, I knew these are the directions they have not tried here. So I'm going to try them. And so, of course, later on, seeing my determination gradually more and more, they became around, and they're been helpful to some extent. Even New York State, they gave us a grant. At least they have announced a grant of more than $1 million to create an ethical dairy model. And because so much of capital expenses are required, and for that. But the grant is like, I have to put in another 5 million, then I can access the 1 million. So it's like grant is there but not there.
yeah. So
It's
close
like
yet so far.
it's like a seed grant in a sense.
Yeah.
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 So, but there is and this project, New York State has designated as a priority project for the state. So we get kind of better access to any issues, regulatory issues, all these things. So they will see through. They want to see, because New York State is losing a lot of dairies,
Mm,
especially because of the Russia went and got Crimea in 2014, and that's when the whole dairy in New York State collapsed soon after. It's like a whole geopolitical issues, they are there. There are many reasons behind it, but slowly the dairy industry is going down. And so in short, this is what I've been trying to do. I'm really hoping to develop alternative, a dairy brand, ethical dairy brand in Northeast region, which is New York State, New Jersey, Massachusetts, Vermont, Maine, Rhode Island, maybe Pennsylvania. So it's kind of, sometimes that is also considered Northeast. And I'm hoping that that creates a lot of buzz and research opportunities and learning experiences for everyone, and satisfaction for me. So,
fantastic. Thank you for that context. Really interesting. Might you be willing to explain in a bit further detail the production model?
so the, I mean, first, because the consideration is ethical dairying, so that becomes like the hat on top of everything, or a sieve through which I have to do everything else. So the
Yeah.
product and everything becomes this thing. Where did it go? So this is on our website. What is an ethical dairy? And let me jump right into. So it's a distinction between what is a local grass-fed, and I've not. I mean, the organic dairies I've not even considered. Even the local grass-fed dairy has these problems. What to speak of the organic dairies, which are feedlot dairies, I would call them. And then the conventional dairy is another column, which on the website I had not put. So uh, I'm calling the conventional dairy, or even the organic dairy, conventional dairy, as cruel milk and healthy
Yeah.
milk, fine milk. I plan to advertise like that, like make
Mm,
conversation a topic of conversation, to be, that's, I mean, with this TikTok, mode nowadays, you have to be like to make a conversation, you may need to create these kind of words, and but in reality, it is a very cruelly produced milk. So the way I would do this, I've been thinking of doing the ethical dairy is this: the calves suckle on the mother's teat for 6 months, but the 6 month is the wean. Like 4 months, they are suckling twice a day. We don't keep the cows with the cows whole day long, because I'm thinking of doing the way they have been doing in India for ages. And the cows and the calves, they are okay with just being with each other for a couple of hours in the morning,
Mm.
hours in the evening, and so that the cow can produce enough milk too. And see, what happens is, the cow, if she thinks that she's only feeding for the calf, then her milk production becomes less, even though she can produce more without any external inputs, artificial inputs. She has the capacity to produce for human beings too, not just for a calf. And because that's one of the vegan argument, that we shouldn't drink calf's milk. And we have tested it with our cows, and because they, if we love them, they are produced without, I mean, of course, what the dairies do is here, they feed them a lot of other grains and other inputs, so that they produce more and more. And if we leave them on the grass and not maybe half a pound of grain when they are milking, then they don't produce too much. We have decided in our revenues thing that it should produce only, we will get only 3.5 gallons. I don't know how many liters it is. Let me, liters it is, 3.78 into 3.5. 1 second, it would be, show you here. Mm, so 3.8, yeah. So this is now skewed because this is in liters. Um, okay, so gallons also I have to divide by or multiply by. No. Second. I'm sorry, I'm trying to get it to liters.
So what's about 13 liters, I think, 3.5 gallons. So that's
Yeah.
per cow per day.
Yeah. So we are getting at 13 liters. Even if it shows gallons, it is liters. So 13 liters, 92 liters, and 400 liters for 12 cows. So basically, we do 13 liters a day. Even though here, cows can do around, how much it is? About 8, 9 is 3.
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
25, 30 liters. Sometimes but 25 liters or so they could do every day here in the organic dairies, the feedlot dairies. But we take only this much because the remaining is for calves, and also they produce only that much, about two, let's say about 6 into, no, 30 liters minimum they get from the cows. We get only 13.
Yeah. So the rest is with the calves.
And they don't produce that much from the
Yeah,
grains. And so our economies are skewed because of that. And
absolutely.
and so, but we wean them from fourth month onwards. Fourth month we go every once a day, and then fifth month we go once every 2 days, and then that's it after 6 months.
Yeah.
And then newborn calves, so in that manner, they are not separated, they are not bottle fed, and others of male calves are not to be trained as oxen. I'll come to that, that's a huge conversation.
Mm,
And the average age of the cows is about 20-25 years in natural lifespan. So you have to treat them as the normal people so that they can live their full lifespan, like keeping them healthy and feeding them herb, just like we would try to we would try to remain healthy throughout our life and not have stress, and just like people, like we want to keep our family members healthy too, so that they can live long and happy lives. Similarly, same consideration. So now everything has to be seen from that viewpoint. So the cost rises a lot and the
yeah.
production reduce a lot, thinking that, so sometimes every 3 or 4 um, freshening, when the cows, the babies, whenever she delivers, every 3 or 4 year we will leave them alone for a year, and then again impregnate them too.
Okay. So they're carving about once every 4 to 5 years.
No, every for 3 years, let's say she goes on every year, and then fourth year is off, and like that. So at least she doesn't produce that many calves too. And every year she's not milking. And actually, we have seen our cows; they can keep giving milk. Currently, now the cow is there. We have 2 cows who haven't been impregnated, and they keep giving milk up even after 1.5 years. But of course, it is only at two together, so like nine liters now. It's not
Yeah.
7-8 liters now. It's not much. Then,
Yeah.
of course, herbal preparations in mastitis. So many issues come. Mastitis in the feed in the dairies. And we can talk about that later. And so primary of pasture, no silage. We don't like silage so much. Uh,
Yeah.
uh, there is no second page, thank God. Okay. So, so as I was saying, the production becomes half in our method.
Yeah. And so what age are the cows retired?
Whenever we can see they are not able to produce anymore without external inputs and without any diseases. And just like with I mean, earlier the ladies would keep giving birth, till all the way like 10, 12 children. So it's the same way.
Yeah. Yeah. And do those cows play any role or function within your farming system or kind of nature management?
For us, yes, but I'm trying to make a model so that the other dairies can adopt it. So the dairies here in the US, at least they are like standalone dairies. They don't do other
Mm,
farming so much. We, of course, are doing vegetable farming too, so we incorporate in our model. But as far as a replicable model is concerned, because I want other dairies, nearby dairies to look at our model and adopt it, and we can then certify them the ethical dairy, Gopal Farms ethical dairy certification, and then we can then buy the milk from them and then sell it for higher price as we are trying to do, and
I
then
see.
give them a much larger portion than they would get from contract. I mean, I don't know how it's in the UK, but in the US, the most of the dairies are contracted out to um, big companies who pasteurize them and then deliver them all around to the stores. So they have annual contracts per 100 weight or per 100 pounds. So which are not very much at all. So that's why the dairies are not able to survive, the local dairies.
Yeah, yeah,
So we would be able to provide them more. So I'm trying to make a model in our farm which functions, which they can see and replicate, and they don't have to get, oh my God, if I have to do this kind of dairy, I have to do all these other things which Gopal Farm.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So you said you do vegetable farming within your model. Is that the cow seen as beneficial to that?
You say that again, cow is of course beneficial because of her dung, cow dung and cow urine.
Yeah,
We
yeah,
rotate all around the farms. Which
Tramonia.
other dairies won't be able to utilize. So we have other things for them to figure out how
Yeah,
to do with the cow dung and cow urine.
yeah. Um, and could you talk a little bit more about your distribution model and how kind of your pricing works,
Haven't we
price you
gone
sell
through
at?
that? Currently, we are doing only in raw. I don't know UK, but here we can do raw milk. Some states have raw milk licenses. I mean permits you can get. So, but you have to sell it only from the farm, not
Mm,
outside. But that is not true for all the states, but in New York State, it's like that. So we can only sell from our own farm. People can come to our farm and buy. So I cannot distribute this raw milk to anyone. We don't have enough milk to pasteurize. We have to pasteurize to be able to take it out of the farm,
yeah,
even this milk. And we don't have enough milk to sell it outside, pasteurization and everything. So, but we have a lot of facility to pasteurize. What I plan to do is to get other dairies to, once our model is perfected, then I want other dairies to adopt it, and that dairies when they send us the milk, that has to be pasteurized by us, and then be able to sell, because unless they want to sell it on their farm, that's one thing. But if they cannot, and because most dairies are quite huge,
yeah,
200 cows, so they will not be able to sell it mostly from their farm. So they will have to pasteurize it, or they can ship it, raw milk, ship it in a container to our farm, which where we pasteurize, and then we can sell it on retail. So I have worked out the whole retail sales. Where would we be doing? New York City is I think the biggest consumer market in the world in terms of
mm,
power. So we have that going for us, and I mean, there is a huge population who want this kind of milk, so I don't think we will ever have problem of production of this kind of milk. The problem is to get enough milk of which we can, which has gone through. this ethical route.
Yeah.
Process to first perfect our model and then to inspire other dairies around. That's my hope, desire. That's where I'm working towards.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, so at the moment, who are you selling to and at what price point?
So local people,
Yeah.
so people have to come to our farm and buy. And so our model, the way it is, it's a little bit skewed because of the price. But for per gallon, we are able to sell for $20 a gallon. Generally, so it is like a liter would be divided by 20, right? So 3.78 divided by 20. 20 divided by 3.78 is equal to about 5.29, 5.3 per liter, $5.3 per liter. So it's about 4.5 pounds.
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
much is from a farm if you purchase? How much is it per kg or per liter?
It's what in the supermarkets for us, I think the price is at about 40p a litre.
So we are selling for $5 or $4 per liter.
Yeah.
Mm.
I
I
think
think
that
it's
correlates with other
yeah,
ethical
it does.
dairy milk we've seen on the market in the UK,
Yeah.
actually, that price point.
Right. So in the stores here, it is about 1/5 of it also, similar,
Yeah.
1/6. So that's why these dairies are not able to make it so much because they get so less money.
Yeah. Yeah.
So what we plan to do is if we can make a ethical dairy market where we are able to sell only a limited to our customers around. But when if I'm able to create a market, which I know exists, they just need to be educated to pay some more for
Yeah.
or a kind milk. So
Yeah.
that's where the whole whole the whole there are two ways this can work in a scaled up version. One is
Mm.
educating people that the money which is going out of let's say 5 pounds for 1 liter, 5 pounds a liter, yeah, 5 into 3.78 is, so let's say 5 pounds, let's say 5 pounds a liter. Your in London or in Manchester or Birmingham, they can only a few poor people will buy, not mass. No, everybody would not be able to or may want to. But the quantity of milk that is being created now, it has doesn't even matter. There are enough people who are there who can afford to buy milk, which is $5 a pound if they feel for it, and that feeling comes from seeing and also understanding the cost of getting it at $1 a pound or half a dollar a pound, half a pound for a liter, which I intend to create a lot of conversations in the communities online
Mm.
to be able to do that. Because using the print media is very much because there is a, people keep talking about it, but there is no solution. No one knows what to do. So once I have the milk from the other dairies to be sold pasteurized in, let's say, New York City, at that time, I would have the print media start doing stories. like do a whole campaign and start having the conversation to have a transparent cost of the milk that you're getting. What are the costs involved? First is the male calves have to be killed. The
Yeah.
older calves have to be killed. The cows have to be pumped with this thing. The cows and calves, even those little bit lifetime they have, and 3 or 4 babies they get, they have to be taken up, So all of this is what finally you are able to drink it at a half a pound of liter. Otherwise, it's not possible. And it is a cruel milk. So I want to put it in everyone's face all the time, this thing, that there
Yeah.
is an alternative. You don't need to feel guilty about it. There is an alternative. Before that, if we do it is maybe counterproductive, people might get turned off. But if there is, that's my hope. I don't know, maybe other people can explain to me, no, no, this is not a right strategy. But what I would like to do is to get some influencers who are into vegan or compassionate, who are more compassionate vegans rather than health vegans. Um, so if they can start to talk about it, and so there should be enough market then to buy this cow.
Yeah. So economically speaking, you see that as the route to scalability rather than trying to bring the price point down by, say, subsidizing with other products on the farm or no, it's yeah,
I
not
could do
devaluing the milk.
it, but it is not replicable because we can't expect other people to try to do this.
Yeah.
Because most farmers are just set in their ways. They are farmers for a reason. They are not doing IT work and other things. Even though it is a failing kind of industry, still they keep doing it because that's all they know and they love it. We can't like change their habits. Let's change the other people's habits who are on the other end. And that itself is so difficult to do. I mean, if they can do what we are trying, it's like so difficult trying to get an ethical dairy, with all the issues with the cows and the weather and crop. Like, it's just like unimaginable how much difficulty they have to go through
Mm,
and
mm.
take health, and take care of the cows and calves and old age. Oh my God. So that is, there are two things one needs to do. One is the milk being sold at a higher price. Well, that is the value of the milk. There is no other way.
Yeah.
And then the second thing is to figure out what to do with the older cows and the calves, the male calves. Otherwise, the economies would get skewed.
Yeah.
Mm. I saw you mentioned earlier about oxen cows. Do you want to talk a little bit more about
Of course, whatever you want me to.
that?
So
I, I think maybe Nimai, just in the context of how you see the oxen being useful um, on the farm and what you might actually envisage them doing, maybe apart from living happy lives and grazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in um, I calculated my model thinking that each cow over, let's say, 10 years of, she has 10 calves or 10 cycles. After leaving her open for 1 or 2 cycles, 10 cycles, she may have 5 heifers, like female calves, and 5 male calves.
Yeah.
In my model, I put it. It may be a little different here, there, So
Yeah.
in the model, I have to do the highest possible so that we know it can work. So 5 female calves are, in a sense, no problem if they are healthy and other ways. So I'm not trying to fix that, because I am also trying to get the best cows possible in the initially. And we got the best possible cows because we don't want to get into the reproductive issues and all the other disease issues. I'm not trying to start. That's the foremost thing to do for any person who wants to do ethical dairy, is there to start with the best quality of stock, because otherwise one is always trying to catch up against
Yeah.
and the things. So I started with the best. I learned in India. So when I started here, I got the best quality. I paid a lot of money to get those initial cows, knowing
Mm.
thing compared to the cost later. And so they generally, we have had no difficulty, no diseases till now, by Lord's grace, till now, after 10 years, I can say no cows has been. Can you please excuse me one second? Worker is calling. I need to pick that up.
Of course.
So out of the five oxen, I'm or male calves, we will train them as oxen. We have trained, yeah. So now it could be that we are going to try with the sexed semen. I don't know in UK they use sex semen or not, but I think they use. And some breeds go well with sex semen, some don't. But let's say Jerseys, Guernseys, they are okay with sex semen. The problem is that the only first 2, 3, maybe 4 year olds, third, after the third cycle, the cost, because their conception rate falls down drastically. So the cost of trying to keep on trying to artificially inseminate with the, um, you are familiar with all of these terms, right? Izzy? Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So uh, trying to artificially inseminate through those sex semen, because let's say one cycle, one time they come in heat and it drops, and the second time they come in they drop it, because the consumption rate is less from that, and then the cost increases, not only to try to do this but also of keeping the cow barren, open.
Mm.
So most dairies, I know dairies here, they don't do sex semen after 3 or 4. Basically, they cull the cow, they send it to slaughterhouse or fold, because they know that their concept, they, it's not be profitable for them anymore. Um, so now if the, so we could do that, and but in my model I didn't use it, because maybe somebody, they don't use it, maybe they have some issues with it. So, but that is a consideration where some people may be able to reduce the number of oxen from five to maybe three, maybe four. But in my model, I put it as five. And so let's say we have five oxen trained, out of which three are well trained, two are not well trained. Those two well trained ones we won't be able to use. So I used the model where the one cow plus two oxen, male calves, will be will have to be taken care of in a retirement kind of setting. The remaining three oxen which have been utilized, which have been trained well. We That's where, Richard, I was talking to you about we have to do a campaign and help and everything, is because this needs a much more organized effort to be able to do it. How? My premise is that based on this fact that all over the world, 50%, developing world, 50% of the farming agriculture is still being done by draft animals. That those are established research studies. This is from 2024 numbers. 52% is by draft animals. Now, those draft animals are mules, donkeys, horses, oxen. So everybody will not adopt. So my plan is to basically ship them throughout the world, these trained oxen from the developed countries. And so these three oxen out of the five, which,
Yeah.
but if they are well trained, so that will be the duty of ethical one of the branches of ethical dairy industry. So I am trying to do it in a non-profit to train them, because a lot of research has to go in this aspect. So I have to do it as a non-profit. And this non-profit then would be training them. And there are many non-profits which are working, let's say in Africa, giving farmers, like Tillers International is one, which this is US based organization which is working in, I forget which country, in Africa, but they are working and they train farmers on, because they've been tilling by hand, it is very inefficient. So they're training them how to till with an ox, and they bring the ox to them. So I plan to, so this requires more, maybe even governmental level or some other way, some other, partnership with different NGOs who are in this field, who are working with farmers to train them and provide them different farm animals. So even if we give them at cost, which is the cost of shipping it, basically training and shipping, that, or get it funded by some other method, because they are already funding those farmers with draft animals through different methods. So one is, I am not saying this should subsidize it, but this non-profit will not subsidize. It will sell because it is it needs to have a for-profit model of sustainability for it to survive. So, but it is not because, but it is non-profit because it need not make profit for its people. It should be able to, but it should be able to keep running. So
Yeah.
then to feed uh, different non-profits or different governments who are looking to supply their population with trained oxen, because West European breeds, they have really strong oxen, and they have different other issues, but they can be sorted by proper training and proper material. And so this will require a lot of this ecosystem to be created. To
Yeah.
I know in India, when I was in Rajasthan, where I got the idea was uh, from where, when I was in the desert area, there is a breed called Thar Parker, which have very strong, tall, white oxen, very strong, very beautiful looking oxen, and very, very submissive, very, very gentle oxen. So they are trained and are shipped all over India.
Mm.
Why are people still using them, not tractors? Is of varieties of reasons, and it's not like they want to change to tractor. No, because sometimes these on mountainous stepped agriculture, they can't use tractors there. They use mules and donkeys, and many of the farmers they use both. Like they can, if they get oxen, they will use oxen, but it is costly, like oxen. So they use mules and donkeys. Some places they will only use oxen mules because just it is just too steep to go, and donkey.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Rice farming also because it is wet ground because of the weeds. So they use animals. And I've seen in Bengal and in South India these oxen from in Rajasthan, Thar Parker oxen, cultivating the rice fields. Then in many of the subsistence farmers all over South America, they are using oxen and donkeys because just so small that you can't bring tractor just for a half acre or quarter of an acre. Um, so and then so many places, unfortunately, let's say in Africa, I'm taking example because I know from this in this organization they can't use tractor, even though they have large land, they could use because the tractors also need a support system, be
Mm.
parts, service people. They don't have all that roads to bring all these things and people, and so somewhere remote, they don't have any access to any of the support system for a tractor. So what will a tractor do there? So for
Yeah.
them, it's best to use oxen. So it's not a oh, poor oxen. No, they need that. Or poor people. They love it if they get the oxen. Well, that is all. They don't need anything else. This is what they need. Is this an animal well trained? Well
Yeah.
trained oxen trains are really priced, real priced in in many parts of the world.
Mm.
So that needs a proper management. Somebody like Richard or people like that in non-profit world who have worked like this, and really somebody to organize that and
Yeah.
develop like this whole thing where people feel like, okay, we should organize this effort. It doesn't need external funding in that sense.
No. Yeah. That's really interesting aspect of this system that we hadn't really considered up to this point. So thank you for sharing that. I'm conscious of time. I guess it would be great to just get a broad sense from you to finish us off on like the key barriers and enablers to scaling this approach that you're talking about.
So the other aspect is the cows, the older cows, the retired cows, and the probably two oxen which are not couldn't be trained well, or
Yes.
or some so taking like one cow becomes three. This is the model. What I'm doing is everything that is sold 10%, let's say right now it's less, but when we have 20 cows, which is what the cows, what our farm can handle and easily is 20 cows. So $4,200 every month we can save, which is every month is around, every year it's about $50,000. That 50,000, let's say over a period of 10 years, when the cows need to retire, is about $500,000. Now that $500,000 we would keep in a trust account. This account is getting built up, and also we will invest it properly so that it builds up, maybe becomes a million, hopefully. If it is with proper investment, it's like a retirement fund. In US, it is called 401k. I don't know in UK what do you call it for people when they are working. So what I'm doing is the cows, they are working. So we'll put aside some money for them and for their dependent children who, let's say a family is there and they have invalid children whom they have to take care whole life. So that's the consideration for these cows. They have been working whole life. So let us save money for them, and then and for their couple of children who could not make it in the world be productive. And so that money which is built up, that capital, we would use, at least in the New York where I am focused right now, where there are hundreds, literally hundreds of dairies which are going bankrupt, and they are closing down all over the state. And so we would buy some of those dairies where they are cheaper, like more north in New York is more and more colder till you get to UK, and till you get to Canada. And so those farms are quite cheap to get. Easily with 500,000, we can buy a large 300-acre farm in which all these cows and their calves, easily they would be able to retire. One farm, one retirement farm is enough, because then they keep dying, and from here they keep coming. So it's enough with this money I've calculated. So this and 500,000 to be used to buy the farm, which is already made for dairy, keeping cows and all. Of course, they are not no milking there, but the whole infrastructure is there to keep the cows and vet and everything, because older age more vet will come. I've budgeted it for now. But the 500,000 which is remaining is used for more other capex, which for those farms, because those farm needs to be maintained to those retirement farms. What I have thought of doing with the remaining, let's say 200 is remaining, 300 is remaining, whatever it, ideal is, if properly invested, it becomes 500. But whatever the remaining funds are, which we are able to create from proper investing, then those funds are used to put a food forest, like a perennial forest, like nut trees, fruit trees, berries, because it's colder climate here. So those ones we are going to harvest, bring it to our farm, a processing place. We are going to make yogurts and all other products to sell and market it much more. And this whole story behind it, that we are using it for. So this is the idea. It's a long-term thing, but I think you get the picture.
Yeah, it's an amazing, yeah, really interesting to see your vision. Um, I guess, yeah, I just wanted to return to that, what you think is like the key barrier of scaling up your model, and I guess a key enabler. I mean, you mentioned the education piece earlier, as being critical for success. Is there anything else that is at the front of your mind?
All of this should work. So things can go off. Um, a lot of things need to be. The main barrier is for me right now is to develop a community who feels the same and who is of the same mindset, and develop
Yeah.
a group to be able to do it. I was telling Richard that I've spent all these years trying to understand myself first before, because I didn't know. Everyone was already given up, so I couldn't like include people in this thinking. And so now that it has been researched enough, and to at least to practically, I have not physically researched, let's say, the sanctuary farm, or the aspect of the oxen being trained and sent to all these other countries, but at least there is a theoretical plan which could be which could be tried to be implemented by a group, so that if there are some issues, then a experienced group can then handle those and work out a different plan, or a parallel, or adjust it. Mhm. So that's where I was talking, Richard. I would like that somehow we can work together on this whole thing. It's not one person, two people, even in. So UK having many relationships with many countries in Africa will help a lot. US doesn't have that relationships or some other countries. For auction, that is without that, it is not possible to do it
Mm.
because I've looked at the number of auction will be created if we don't utilize them. And I mean, it's not just a question of financial, it is like they're just sitting there ideal, doing nothing when they're so sad then. So that will be another whole thing. People will criticize that, oh, you are doing ethical dairy and look at that, you are just uh, retiring them. They are so sad. It's
So
going
you
to.
see that as essential to success of the model is, yeah, interesting. Excellent. I'm conscious of time. You've shared so much with us, which really value. I don't know if you've got any final reflections or anything else that you feel you'd like to share with us before wrapping up.
Oh, what do you think about it?
It's a good question. Well, your yeah, your it's really interesting here to hear about your model because it does differ to those that we've been learning about operating in the UK. There's a very broad spectrum of what's considered ethical, I think, in the UK. And so, for example, we've been talking quite a lot to people about the cow-calf contact system, not necessarily operating with slaughter-free. Um, I think I think the price point is a real challenge. Um, in the UK, certainly the retail landscape, milk is a loss leader, and finding sufficient consumer demand for that price point, I think is always going to be a challenge. Um, there are always going to be niche segments of consumers that are willing to pay and driven by those values. But I think that makes me certainly agree with your point about that there's a huge gap for education. I think there's very little awareness about the realities of the dairy industry and farming generally, to be honest, in the UK. So I think that's really important. I'm also interested with a my environmental hat on in what the environmental kind of question marks are and potential benefits and trade-offs. So that's something that is currently feels quite ambiguous, but we're just trying to work through. Um, be interested to hear if you've got any views on that.
On the methane? Uh,
Yeah,
right.
on the methane, that's certainly one aspect.
Yes, so I was mentioning it to, I was sending some links to Richard yesterday that the,
Yeah.
like, I started with the, when I heard this first time, I was thinking, God has created cows for millennia and everybody has been using it and the world was going on all fine. So it can't be the number of cows or the methane burping and everything. Why is it now it's an issue? So then I was thinking, when I am properly, I'm digesting food, then I don't burp so much or, indigestion is not there or so it could be the same thing for the cows. And I looked around and I found people have done studies and it's like if they are under stress, then they burp more.
Mm.
And if they are, so if we keep them healthy, we don't feed them so much of grains and all these things to pump, at least if their methane output per cow can come down by half, just like it is for beef industry, cows are. It can. But and I'm not saying me, I'm saying there are studies done. We have to put them together into an ethical system. What we are trying to do with the ethical dairy, if we just do that, it's and we should test it. I want to have different universities test in different manner of diseases, so many things we have to like change because the dairy industry is worked out around feed-lot dairy, so they have norms set up like that, including for disease prevention and everything, culling, mastitis, so many. So everything needs research to reset it for
Yeah.
ethical industry, including this data too, the methane data. And then, of course, I mean, then it is not the cow's fault that everyone else is also producing methane. Cows can bring it down to what the beef industry data is, and then if then the beef industry and if consumers should bring the beef consumption down. Don't blame
Mm.
everything on cows who are dairy cows, no. So I can send, maybe Richard can share with you. I can send you. I feel like there are three ways it could bring down. One is I can put this in the chat.
Thank you.
The reduce it by 50% or reduce the dairy cows through ethical practices 50%, reduce the beef cows. I don't know how much percentage if people take their protein from the milk of the cow rather than from from the flesh of the cow, then like in India people do with paneer and with all the with milk and dairy products and which for millennium people have been doing in people, even people who were drinking, were eating beef, they have been eating, having dairy products for a large portion of their protein too. Whey drink, and even now people do that. And then recycle the manure pits and slurries. I have so many thoughts about that, so many thoughts. And in US,
Mm.
in Dutch people, they have done quite a lot of work in with this too, what to do with the cow dung slurries they have.
Mm.
And in US, some of the universities also have done some work with recycled plastic and so many things, different things. Some UK company is making a brick out of the cow dung. So we have to, I, what I would do is, I have a non-profit now. I have not done work on it, but I intend to, is in our farm, I'm going to set up these micro enterprises, research with some universities, get funding from some people, fund each research and see where it takes us and publicize it a lot and try to replicate that from the. So, but on our farm, we don't have these slurries and all because it's pasture based. So it becomes dry and then it is not such a problem um, because we are using, but there could be other dairies in even in our network when we develop, which will have this problem. So I'm conscious of it, and then that we would need to do on this work.
Yeah.
It's gold actually. It's just lying there. People don't see the value of it.
Yeah, absolutely.
What
Yeah.
other environment issues? Land use? What other environment issues could be?
Yeah, land use is a big one, alongside the GHG emissions.
I mean, I don't know, but in UK, but in US, there are so many dairies have closed down. So we have no problem with land use issues. But
Mm.
recycle, reuse those dairies, and that reinvigorates the local communities. Because the whole rural landscape or the ethos or the ecosystem which the local farms create, they are much more valuable to people than closing down the farms and reutilizing the land for development. That is very, very well accepted among the New York and all the Northeast population. Everybody knows that. So that's why they try to actually buy those lands and preserve them for agriculture
Mm.
rather than to develop it and such. And so in US, I mean, land is also so much. I don't think we have problem with the land use here. I don't know what the question is in New York. I mean, in UK, you don't have, I mean, because of the sanctuary thing, you're thinking there is land, extra land being used for them. Because once you reach a number, then it becomes the same. It's like they keep dying, and once it just needs to reach that particular number. And especially if the oxen are being sent abroad to developing countries, shipping. I mean, Arabian horses, they were shipped all around the world. So
Yeah.
like that, there from time immemorial, people have been shipping their prized animals, livestock around the world. Guernseys are here in the US, Jerseys and Guernseys. So it's always happened. So so we should, I mean, we shouldn't say, oh, land there in Africa or just land in UK for those one cow with maybe two more dependents. And then after some years, it becomes the same. It's not going to keep increasing.
Yeah. Yeah. Rich, is there anything you want to
Um,
ask
I
about?
was planning to sit here quite carefully, really, and or quietly, and just obviously it was just to stop putting in just a one clarification, I think, if I may. How so the average life of the cow, as you say, is 20 to 25 years. In your experience, how long do they milk productive? What's the ratio between productive milking and
Like,
retirement?
just like human beings, sometimes it depends on some ladies by around 40 years of age, they can't have any more kids. And some get, I mean, they can have till 40, 45 years. So similarly, in cows too, sometimes by 15 years, they can't produce anymore. Then they can even do till 18 year, 20 years also.
I think that's important, isn't it? Because a lot of the conversation on the commercial dairy as well, they only milk till 5 years and you're going to have 20 years of retirement time. When actually, this model is very different, where they would milk for longer. And okay, with age, the milk production would decline, I'm sure, naturally, but it isn't that simple equation of 5 years of milking and 20 years of retirement. What's the herd size there at the moment? Because it is still quite a small operation, isn't it? I
About
think you said.
12 cows, yeah. Yeah. We have about 12 cows and we have only a few milking.
Okay. And it's more just a comment, really, I think, on the oxen bit is really interesting because that is a conundrum, isn't it? You either look at, as you said, Nimai, sex sorted semen to try to limit the number of oxen, or you find a really practical way of using the oxen. And what you described there, I'd not heard before. I mean, that is very, very interesting. Um, the retirement bit is also interesting as well because, and I wonder, Izzy, also whether there's a way, let's say you bought up a dairy or land and use that as the retirement farm, if you would look to manage that land in a way that sequestered carbon, wouldn't you? Whether that was through tree planting or other routes, so that you could, for every cow that arrives, you plant 10 trees or something. I know carbon offsetting has a bad rap, but rather than just having cows grazing on pasture, you could look to manage that retirement site in a way that almost allowed you to talk in some way about carbon neutrality or methane neutrality,
Mm,
So
GHG
of course,
neutrality.
that's why if you, that's why I was saying that the $500,000 we would buy the land, and for the remaining, let's say if we are able to invest and gather another 200 or 300, we would plant trees. That was one of the reasons. And it's not just any trees, productive trees, which we could then create a whole revenue stream from it, like all kinds of fruits and all kinds of nut trees. And we put them in these, I don't know, in UK, if you get these small yogurt containers on the retail shops, everywhere you get stores where there is fruit in the bottom and there
Yeah.
is yogurt in the top,
yeah.
so fruit yogurt. So that is the most bang for the bucks in terms of utilization of the cow's milk. um, because you can sell for like 64 times or something for the milk. So that will be a great story too. This is from the same cows generationally
Yeah.
coming in. And
Agroforestry.
it's, yeah, agroforestry. That's all I'm about is the food forests, medicinal food forests or herbs too. So we create
Yeah.
things too.
Uh, Aside from that, is nothing else from me? That was really interesting. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you ever so much for your time, Nimai. Um, yeah, a really interesting session. So thank you. We will wrap it up there, based on time. Do you have any questions for either Rich or I before we sign off? Obviously, we're
I want to know how to, let's say there is a research and everything, but the whole thing doesn't end here. What are the next steps, Richard? And
Well,
next
that's
step,
that's a huge question. This is very much. I was talking with a team from Eunomia earlier. This is a scoping study to begin with. I think really, as you say, there's your operation, there's Sanjay's operation in the UK. There might be one other that we've sort of become aware of. So, and also there will be a great deal of resistance. I think you used the phrase laughter from the conventional academics and the conventional dairy farmers about how this could work. I'm personally very interested in seeing how it can work. So I think the next immediate steps from this is obviously to get the report. And I think, as I said to you on the phone yesterday, it's not necessarily a report that we'd publish. It will be more to share amongst key stakeholders and for us to try to figure out, okay, so what do we need to understand next if we're to go out into the public arena and have people take us seriously? Because I do want to be able to get this into mainstream conversation in the UK, in Europe, the US, elsewhere. Um, so I think the next steps are to get the report, have a look at what, and Izzy touched on it. It's not so much the opportunity, because I think the opportunity is probably there. I think there would be people, a good proportion of people who would want to see this happen. It's more like the barriers is the bit that I need to really work on, because if we can overcome or at least provide very valid answers to the obvious barriers that will come up, people won't pay 5 times the price of conventional milk. You're going to use hectares and hectares of land on non-productive animals, methane emissions we've talked about. Um, and if we can so I think this is the first piece of research of several to sort of go, okay, Mr. Conventional Dairy Farmer or Mr. Government Official, you've raised this issue. We've already answered it. Here's the answers. So that no more objections on that side. What other objections do you have? And the other piece, I think, for me is we need to set out a future which is not slaughter-free dairy within the context of the way the food system is now. We need to set out a concept of slaughter-free dairy against things like a reducing beef herd. So, if and when people decide to consume less meat, which is sort of already happening, there's a lot of moves with plant-based meats. There's a lot of move with things like cultivated meat, growing it from animal cells. I do think that issue around land use would become much easier because you wouldn't have millions of beef cattle roaming everywhere. And so I think that there's two things for me. One is to prove that the slaughter-free model can work economically, that there's a demand for it, that we've answered the environmental questions, and then to put it in the context of, well, what would the food system look like in 20 years' time? Given every government report in the UK and Europe says we need to be eating less meat over the next 20 to 30 years, which instinctively means you need to reduce the size of the beef herd, which then means there's less methane emissions from cattle overall, which then means there's more land to think, how do we productively start to use that land? And so then slaughter free starts to become much more relevant. So that's a very long-winded question answer to say this is a first step for us. I know I'm interested, our organization is interested, our members are interested. Um, Once I get the report back, and obviously you'll see it as well, Nimai, I think at that point we can sit down and say, okay, what do we need to do next then to start to develop that momentum? And until I see the report, the final report, I don't quite know what that next step would be. But public education is definitely, you talked about it in the States. Nimai, sorry, I'm still on the back of feeling ill this week. Um, in the UK, there's still far too few people who understand what the dairy industry actually is. They think cows stand in fields and have a lovely life, produce milk, and then just die at some point. They don't realize that this cow that can live till 2025, is slaughtered at 5 after 4 birth cycles, and and has been bred as well to be a milking machine far beyond the limits of its body. And I think the more that we can raise, so there's almost like sort of proving that slaughter-free dairy can work at scale, while also raising public awareness and demand of wanting to do something different on dairy. And
Mm.
though if we can turn those two dials in the right way, sorry, my voice is getting out, in the right way, then I think it could definitely work. But it is very, very early days at the moment, I think, given what we're up against in terms of the conventional dairy industry. Even as you say, with dairies being sold and going bust, certainly in the UK, the trend is towards there are less dairy cattle now than there were 20 years ago, but the farms are much more intensive. The herd sizes are much bigger. So there's fewer dairy farms, but much bigger dairy herds on those farms. So it's classic, it's intensification. When prices are at a premium, then the way that you extract profit is by intensifying, and that's at the expense of the cow, obviously. We need to turn that whole cycle back and get the public on side, which is the bit we were talking about yesterday, Nimai, about how do we campaign, how do we raise awareness, not just of the benefits of slaughter free, but of the endemic cruelty in the dairy industry at the moment, so that there's a much larger group of people demanding change.
The studies in the New York area for human products for dairy industry shows a 65% of the regularly purchasing consumers or dairy products consumers wouldn't mind paying more if they can get more human products.
Yeah.
65%. And they're
Well,
showing that little if the people anybody can do little bit human and double the
I,
cost they
I also think it's really interesting the way that we price things. Um, People would not bat an eyelid at paying £9 for a bottle of wine, 7 3/4 of a litre.
yeah, yeah,
And yet they would be horrified if you asked them to pay £9 for a litre of milk. And yet, where's the difference in reality, other than, there's no particular, I'm sure the costs are probably fairly similar. Same with olive oil. Olive
yeah,
oil prices over here have shot up, and people, I know when we go shopping, my wife will say, I'm not paying £7 for a bottle of olive oil. So, well, you don't think twice about paying £8 for a bottle of wine. So I do think there's something in the way that we have become institutionalized to pricing,
yeah.
that might be interesting to look at as well. But I suspect, Izzy, we probably need to leave it there, don't we? Because we're
I
keeping
am
you
going to
much
have to
longer than
dash
we
actually. Yeah.
we said we would. So, Izzy, let you go. Nimai, what I'd love to do maybe next week is just pick up that conversation we had yesterday, and just keep the conversation going between us. And then, Izzy, we'll keep talking on our side. And then,
Yeah.
once we've got a draft, it will only be a short report. This is very much as I say, a scoping study. We're not going to suddenly start going out and shouting about slaughter free from the rooftops. There's quite a lot of things to get in place before we do that. But I think in terms of you and I taking the conversation forward, Nimai, I think that's something I'd definitely like to do from next week, if that's okay with you.
that's great. I would love to.
Wonderful. Okay.
Despite
Brilliant.
my history with you for all these months, I would love to do it now.
Okay. Excellent. That's great. All right. Nimai,
All
Thank you
Izzy,
so much for
thank
your
you so much.
time.
Okay. Bye bye
Bye.
now.
right, Richard. Thank you. Bye. Good night.